There was a certain move that the Lions made today that that surprised absolutely no one and can clear up a lot in cap space, and that, of course, they finally cut Michael Brockers, a guy who was basically a healthy scratch for most of last season. He really didn't do a whole lot, and cutting him will save the Detroit Lions $10 million, and it already shows up in Spot Track. The Lions now have about $26 million in cap space. So you've got all that $10 million just for cutting Michael Brockers, who was basically a nothing burger this past season. Braylon Edwards, do you have any? Michael Brockers. What even do you have to say about that?
Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. No, I'm joking. At the end of the day, you never want to see guys go. You hate cutting players. But it's a dirty business. It comes with the territory. Michael Brockers, good guy. I heard him talk a few times. Leader on that team to a certain extent. But we need guys that are playing. Like, we're in a phase now. This is. I know how many Marvel fans out there. This is like phase 4. Phase 4 is serious. We're creeping into phase 5 King Dynasty. Like, you're getting to the end. Like, this is what we want. And we're getting to that space now where we believe we're challenging for the NFC Championship game next year. And potentially how that goes, the Super Bowl. So you got to make every penny count, every dollar count, and it's got to be going towards players that are on that field and they're making this team better and win. Hey, look, at the end of the day, man, Michael Brockers, hope everything goes well with you on the other side. But it's about the Detroit Lions and what they're going to do. And clearing up cap space like that, this just makes them even stronger in free agency, especially with free agents happen to jump on the list from time to time.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? He had a bad fit from the day he got here. If you remember how he opened his Lions career, who did he kind of trash? Jared Goff. And then what happened like the day after? Jared Goff got traded over here to the Lions. I'll never forget that. He had to backtrack. He had to go meet Goff at the airport and apologize and say, hey, I didn't mean anything by it, blah, 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 blah. And then last year, he was my guy, man, because every Lions pregame show that I was on, we did the not the cuts,
the riff,
but the inactives.
Oh yeah,
I would always depend. Michael Brockers was on my inactive list, so he'd be the first name. Inactive today. Oh, Michael Brockers.
Whether you read it or not,
inactive
you knew
today.
He was on there.
So I'm gonna miss him.
Yeah.
But he won't. You know what? He was a veteran that Brad Holmes knew in L.A. He came here. He might not have been the best football player fit for this team. He still was a good veteran voice. And I think he took care of his guys.
And that's what I said. And he was a good leader to a certain extent. Exactly what Brad Holmes wanted for the time. A guy that wasn't going to cost a lot of money. Going to come on right now with where they were at last year going into that 3-13-1 season. And he was the perfect guy for the job.
You might as well have called him Udonis Brockers then. Just that veteran leadership who never really played.
That's a valuable role, though. Like that, I think that's a role in the NBA that they need more of. You got to have that veteran guy on the bench, man.
All right, fair enough. Coming from a professional athlete, I understand that. Well, speaking of the Detroit Lions defense, I think we all liked the way that their season ended, and it looks like Aaron Glenn, they're looking to sign him to an extension. And I know that the overall numbers, they don't look very pretty when you talk about the totality of their season. But under Aaron Glenn, in the last 10 games, the Lions defense gave up 20.2 points per game, which would have been good for 7th in the NFL over an entire season. In 6 of those games, the Lions gave up less than 20 points, and in all of those games, the Lions won. They were 6-0. And then look at how the young guys developed under him. Aiden Hutchinson led the NFL rookies in sacks and also had 3 interceptions. James Houston, a 6th-round pick, was second amongst all rookies in sacks. And then Malcolm Rodriguez, all-rookie team defense as a linebacker as a 6th-round pick, and Kirby Joseph, 6 forced turnovers, 4 interceptions, including 3 against Aaron Rodgers. And in those games against the Packers, the Lions went 2-0 and held the Packers to 12.5 points per game. So are we all in on Aaron Glenn at this point?
Yeah, we definitely are all in on Aaron Glenn. I think we were in on Aaron Glenn early on in their tenure 2 years ago, but because we gave them the excuse, undermanned. You looked at how bad they were in terms of talent-wise on the defensive side, and he still managed to be in some games. He still managed to have some moments. And then last year starts off terrible. Like, it's not looking good. They fire their DB coach. He's a sacrificial lamb, if you will. But then he picked it up. He picks it up on the back end. And I think the bigger thing and why it's good is because now you got a second-year Aiden Hutchinson, you got a second-year James Houston, you got Kirby Smart. Excuse me, you have Kirby Joseph. Kirby Smart, we know where he coaches at. You have Kirby Joseph. He's pretty good as well, right? You have more draft capital this year. You're starting to make room for more free agency money so you can get some players in. This should be a really good year, and I don't want to have to deal with the coaching carousel every year. I think by extending Aaron Glenn, this is now next season when you go into the off season after going to the NFC Championship or winning a first playoff game, and now we got to play musical chairs again. Is Ben Johnson going? Is Aaron Glenn going? The fact that he's extending today, at least that gives you stability with your defensive coordinator and your head coach. Ben Johnson, we know, is going to leave, but at least you get stability there.
Hey, you remember the beginning of the year when they were giving up 45 points, 40 points, sure. 39 points.
Aubrey Pleasant, there's
Aubrey Pleasant. Now he's in L.A. He's with Sean McVay with the Rams now. He went to the Packers. Now he's with the Rams. Yeah, he was the sacrificial lamb. And it turned out that, things picked up when Ben Johnson started calling a better game. But Aaron Glenn got this team right. Let's face it. After the first 6 games, like you said it, what are they, top 7 in the league?
Yeah,
that's pretty damn. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
He did his job. They respected him. And that's all you could ask for. And you know what? They're bringing him back. He did get some interviews for a head coaching position. I think eventually he will be a head coach for sure. And I expect this team to even get better this year. I'm thinking a top 10 defense. I'm going to go crazy and say a top 10 defense this year. I already like what they have, and they're going to add to it. And there's a lot of players out there that you can just go and pay them a couple dollars and bring them on in as well.
I don't think what Madison saying is blasphemous, especially we'll get into that. I mean, you have an NFL draft upcoming. You have draft. You have some good picks. You have 6. You have 18. You have 48. Then you got some money. We'll talk about another guy that interests me that you can potentially pick up. We've talked about some other guys that are potentially available for the Detroit Lions to pick up. So, based off that defense could be in that. Defenses are ever shifting around the NFL. Players are moving. How many people were on that Eagles team before the season started? How many people are going to be on that team when it's over? But the other good thing about it is it takes me back, Maz, to what? It takes me back to what Aaron Glenn said when he was at the podium his first year with the Detroit Lions. What did he say?
I want to be the best.
I want to be the best defensive coordinator the Detroit Lions have ever seen. After the way he finishes this year, gets some interviews, says I'm cool, I'm coming back, and now extends. Ladies and gentlemen, I think he's putting his mouth where his money is.
Well, and the thing is, and the reason why I mentioned all the rookies and how well they played last season, I know that Brad Holmes gets a lot of credit for drafting them, but Aaron Glenn's got to get a ton of credit for developing these players. Like
them in there.
Like James Houston, before the season, he was cut. He comes back and has 8 sacks in 7 games during a stretch when the Lions defense was actually playing really well. And you saw in Hard Knocks the way he was coaching, the way Aiden Hutchinson was developing.
Say that first piece again, Sam, because I don't think the people really understood what you said. He was what before he had 8 sacks?
Before 8 sacks,
He was cut.
He was cut. And in 7 games, 8 sacks. That is 1.14 sacks per game, which if you did that over a full career, that is alien. Like nobody will ever do that. That is
Lawrence
equivalent
Taylor.
to
Times 10.
In a 17-game season, 19.4.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. And as talented as these guys are, you need to be coached. They need to be developed. And those were kind of, a lot of them, like Malcolm Rodriguez, James Houston, even Kirby Joseph to an extent, were kind of diamonds in the rough. They weren't first-round draft picks. And when you have a young defense, you're going to have some struggles at the beginning. Nobody expected them to struggle as bad as they did, being historically bad. But to Aaron Glenn and that defense's credit, they turned it around in a way that I don't think any of us expected. Most of us were expecting roll the tanks in at that point, but they didn't. They bounced back. And the defense improvement correlated 100% with the Lions' improvement.
I thought it was over. I thought it was over. When we were talking about seasons, when we start back to preseason picks, Ryan Ermanni said the craziest thing I had ever heard. Ryan said that the Detroit Lions are going to win 10 games. And I said, based on what? Based on what are they going to win 10 games? And then we go down the schedule. So for them to start off 1-6, I'm like, where's those 10 wins, man? Where's those 10 wins we talked about? And so Ryan had egg on his face. Ryan looks crazy. And then all of a sudden, certain players you're taking out. And Aaron Glenn's fitting players in. This guy's not working. You know what? This guy is letting us down. Let's put this young guy in here. This guy gets hurt. Let me bump this guy over here. He basically patchworked the defense all season long until they really start finding their stride around week 10. week 11, like, you got to take your hat off to what Aaron Glenn put together, man, 100%. Brad Holmes drafted players, but it's up to Aaron Glenn and Kelvin Shepard and Aubrey Pleasant, who's no longer here, but it's up to the coaches to plug and play. Hey, this guy's going to look good here. I think this guy could fit this situation. He would be good in nickel and third down. So, he deserves a lot of credit, and that's what happens usually when you get paid more. It's called the credit you deserve.
And look what he's done to some of those players. Let's just take a couple. Isaiah Buggs. I don't know what he did, but this guy's a player. John Kaminsky, former third-round pick of the Falcons. They cut him. Lions sign him. They find the right spot for him. And now he's going to get re-signed. He's going to get paid. And they win when he's on the field. He's putting the players where they're supposed to be. You got to take your hat off to the guy. He's making the moves. That's why I believe this team is going to take the next step, even on defense, next season.
I mean, top 10. That's a little aggressive. I would
say
top
7 the second half of the year. You told me.
That is true, and that is a great point brought up by you.
But scheduling too. You got to look at those last.
We don't know how those teams are going to be.
True,
right?
but you got to look at the last 10 games of the year. Like those schedules, the teams that they played, like only like 1 or 2 of them made the playoffs, if that.
Yeah, and depending on what the Lions get in the draft and what they were able to get in free agency, top 10 might be a little aggressive, but maybe not. But I would say definitely a top 20, top 15 scoring defense, because if the Lions' offense is as good as it was last year, or better, or even slightly worse, a top 20, top 15, hell, even top 10 defense, that could put the Lions over the top. I mean, if you're telling me that the Lions can have a top 10 defense, I'm showing you a team that probably has 12 or 13 wins.
And a top 5 offense.
I'm definitely with you on that, Flannel Sam. As I'm looking at it now, like, I would say top 15. I would say top 15 because we're aiming to be a top 5 offense again, top 7.
Yeah.
If we go top 10, top 7, we're supposed to be in the Super Bowl and damn near win it. So I would go top 15, and I go top 8 offense.
They could win the NFC, right?
Yeah,
it's the NFC
for sure. But I'm saying, but once you say top 10, that means you're supposed to win the Super Bowl.
I get it.
If you're top 10 and top 10, that's the Chiefs.
Yeah.
that's the Philly.
But you also need your coach to be good with the clock and to learn how to manage the game as well. You could be top 10 and top 10 and still be crap if your coach is screwing you 3 games out of the year.
Yeah, that is still.
This is true.
I still think that's a question mark when it comes to Dan Campbell, but I don't think he got in his team's way as much at the end of the year, but a lot of it was because in some of those games, the Lions just beat teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Chicago Bears and the New York Giants from start to finish. It didn't require any.
Those are 3 playoff teams that they wiped the floor with.
And the teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Jaguars were playing well before and after that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Carolina.
They didn't lose after the Lions beat them. They didn't lose until they lost to the Chiefs. In the playoffs.
Braylon, you would mention Carolina to bring me down a peg, but maybe we all need to get brought down a peg, and that's okay.
It's humbling, man.
That's okay. That was a very, very bad loss. Sometimes we got to go through that.
We got to go.